Amit writes in with the following question. TJ, you talk a lot about using the whole room or a lecture hall. A big problem for me is that we also record and stream live to online students, which means the camera doesn't follow me if I walk out of frame. Do you have any thoughts on that? So far you don't mention anything about that. I'm sure it's a growing trend for those of us who educate that we need to adapt to online and campus students at the same time. It is a huge concern. And I can't give you blanket advice that will fit in every direction. Now, here's what I have noticed in some academic arenas and certainly some corporate arenas where someone is recording it for an offline audience when you're speaking. If there is a camera person present and a technician, quite often they'll tell you, stand right next to the lectern, don't move more than 3 feet. And that way it'll be optimum video for the people watching you online. My advice is this: disregard what they tell you. They're trying to have you make their life easier so they can have the camera set and then go off and have a smoke break. Well, I'm sorry, your obligation is not to make the camera person's life easier. Your obligation is to create the most interesting, fascinating, memorable, riveting experience for your audience, both in the room as well as anyone watching you online. Now, you may be in a situation where there is no camera person and it is just locked and they've had people stand next to a lectern and they tell you if you move, it's out of the screen and we can't use the video or it's going to look or sound awful. You got to make a judgment call. If there are 4 students in the room with you and 4,000 people who are watching you online, well, yes, then I would basically sacrifice the people in the room and I would stay in one spot so that you have good, clear video, nothing distracting for the 4,000 people watching you online. Now, let's flip that. If you have 1,000 people in the room or 800 people in the room, and you may have 5 people watching you online, I would sacrifice the online environment. I'd walk all through the room, back of the room. That way, you are much more interesting to your audience. You create variety, vocal variety, visual variety. I would simply sacrifice the quality of the video for the online audience. Now, there is a technology, and I'm not primarily a technologist, but if you're interested in this, look into it. You can put some kind of essentially a magnet on your body, and then an automated camera can follow you. I've certainly seen this in video conferencing setups in corporate headquarters all over the world. That way, if you move, the camera will move even if there is no camera operator. But the first thing you've always got to think about is, how can you make this spoken experience as interesting and as memorable as possible to the audience you care about and the widest number of people? Don't do just what the technicians say, because they're often focused on, is it technically perfect as far as your head being centered the whole time? And if you were incredibly boring and everybody fell asleep, they wouldn't care. That's not what they view their job as. Their job is to create a picture that looks neat. Your job is to actually communicate, so do not lose sight of that. I'm glad you're thinking about this issue, because the default position for most people is, oh, they tell me I have to stand here, well then I'll just stand right here, and then you've ruined the experience for the people in the room. Thanks for asking, and let me know how it turns out in your own situation.